Hi, and welcome to this Brainware Group presentation, which will cover a quick overview of Spider Vault License. My name is Barry Johnson, and I'm a Business Development Manager for Brainware Group in the UK. So you can see the Spider interface, which should be familiar to most people who have used Office since 2007. We've got a ribbon-style menu at the top here, which gives you access to any of the modules that you have according to your license agreement. The particular configuration I'm showing today is based on our SAM Cloud platform. So you can see that we've got Spider Asset, Spider License, Spider Contract, as well as System and Favorites buttons on the top menu. And then in each of these, we'll see specific other modules that are related to that. So I'm currently in the dashboards view. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to give you a quick overview of Spider Asset so that you can see what capabilities we have inside the system with regards to that. So the first place I'm going to go into is the inventory dashboards. Inventory dashboards is our way of giving an overview of all of the different types of assets that you might find in your estate. So we can see in this estate an overview of all the numbers of devices there, how many of those devices have had a scan date which was greater than 30 days ago, which is quite key for asset management customers who want to make sure that their data is consistent and up to date, as well as a breakdown of the assets by type and by which legal entities they fall into. So I'm just going to jump into the laptops one there, which then gives me further information about the laptops, as well as giving me now the breakdown of those laptops by the legal entities. So I'm just going to jump into our Hamburg legal entity, and then we can jump into a specific laptop here. So this laptop is a laptop for a developer machine, and the way that we can see that is because we have one of the attributes here, which is the environment attribute, which has been set to development. Now, interestingly, in a number of solutions that take care of asset management, you have a number of fields that don't typically affect anything else about the way that the system calculates licensing or entitlement for that particular device. Interestingly, in the way that we do things on the Spider side of Brainware Group is the environment actually, when it's set to development, does have an impact on the way that the licensing is consumed with regards to what's on a particular device. So we have a set of rules in the background called license metric procedures, or LMPs, and you will find that when you set a machine to be in the development environment, that has an intrinsic impact on the Microsoft licensing for that machine. So you can see that if we have a look down here, this is where we have the software installed for what's on the machine, and we've got various pieces of Microsoft software there that are showing the license usage as 0. But interestingly, we've got one of them that's actually showing a license usage of 1. So if I jump into that, I can find out further as to why that might be. So here we can see that this is a license, or this is the installation of Windows 8.1 Enterprise, and on here it's a device-based license metric, and you can see that we have a number of different license metrics within Spider Asset that we can configure for the consumption of software on an individual installation level. So this particular installation is not general settings for Windows 8.1 Enterprise. This is the settings for this installation on that device that I've just shown you. So we can see that the reason why that particular installation there is showing as the license usage as 1 is because I've ticked this flag here, which is manual handling. So manual handling is our ability to be able to override the system's license metric procedure calculations, so that in the event that you have a contract or a situation which doesn't follow the classic rules for a typical scenario, then you can override that. So an example of this one may be that you have a company-wide agreement, and consequently you need to declare all of the qualifying devices as part of that company-wide agreement, for if you're standardizing on something like the Windows platform. So in this case, you would need to make sure that you overrode the license metric procedure accordingly and set the license usage to 1, which is a really powerful feature, we believe, because it means that if the system calculates things and you need to make adjustments to that, the possibility inside the system exists without limitation to make adjustments in there. So Moving on inside the system, as a general overview to what you get inside an asset as well, you can see that we've got some basic information with regards to an asset. So we've got the asset number, which we put as the same as the host name. We also have the domain, some various technical information which could relate to licensing and not. And this is actually in the on-premise versions of our solution completely configurable. So if you wanted to add additional fields in here, which for whatever reason are not already covered, then it's possible to be able to add in additional fields into the system that could be populated from data sources that you may already have, or be left open so that they could be manually populated as perhaps drop down boxes with pre-entered values, or you could have them as free text fields. So we have a number of different tabs here that are nested on the right-hand side, which cover off more than just the technical side, though. So we've got a number of fields that relate to commercial side, which, dependent on your requirements, could have some intelligence built behind some of these to take into account things like taxation, different currency conversions, and so on. So we also have additional fields, which are again free text fields for use as your organization would see fit, general comments, and also interestingly, we have the possibility to associate contracts to assets, but not just one type of contract, because we believe that in many cases, you might want to associate both the purchase contract as well as a service contract to a particular asset. And the nice thing is that when you do make those associations, we can see those on the right-hand side here. So I've got a purchase contract here that's been assigned. And if I wanted to jump in to find out more about that particular purchase contract, simply click on the contract link. The system's then going to take me over to Spider Contract, where I will get more information about that particular contract there. So we can see inside the Spider Contract side of things who's the responsible employee, the purchaser, the requester, etc. But we can cover Spider Contract in another demo at another time. So if I just tab back there, interestingly as well, our system, because of the way that it works nicely with browser navigation, as well as you'll quite often find the possibility to navigate to different places where you may have been along the ribbon menu at the top. So it's really easy system to be able to step back and forward based on wherever you need to go inside the system. And if you need to keep going back to that same screen, it consistently returns you back. So we also have inside the system, as well as all of the different possibilities to configure the software on a per installation level for that device, we also have inside the system the nice to have feature that a lot of customers previously ask companies like us for, which is how can I see the raw data inside the system. Typically in a number of systems you'll find that you have to go into a Windows-based interface, which might be on a server. Doesn't make it very accessible necessarily for those who are taking care of asset management, unless they also have direct access to those servers to get that information out. In Spider we took a different approach, and we actually make this information accessible from within the web console. So if we jump onto the ribbon menu up here and you see this button, install programs, I can click on the install programs, and this will show me all of the data that's been collected from the agents or data sources that we've pulled that data for that asset for. So on a Windows machine, we see in the installed programs list all of the data that's been pulled from WMI out of what you will probably recognize as the add remove programs list. We also give a classification as to whether or not these applications with regards to fingerprints that we have are relevant, unclassified, or ignored. And the possibility to classify unrecognized applications is inbuilt within the system, which is a really nice feature for customers who might want to take care of in-house developed software independent of our recognition center definitions. We also collect and enabled you to report on the located files in the system. So previously I've been looking for things that relate to Visual Studio, which is where that's filtered on that list. But I can search out to see all of the files that have been discovered on that software which are relevant. Or I can also, if I want to broaden my search, look at unclassified and ignored files as well. Again, a really powerful feature dependent on which vendors you're dealing with and the terms in their licenses. You may find that some vendors consider it very important to know if files are on a particular device, and therefore may ask you to purchase a license accordingly for the devices that have just files on there. Finally, in the software recognition section is the software recognition button itself. So this is our system actually then providing and doing that mapping for you of not just the discovered data, the raw data that's inside the system, but also mapping that to known applications that are in the system for the purposes of reconciling that against the licenses that you will put into Spider License. And this is one of the things that has been a feature that a number of asset management tools over the past few years have really picked up on, and much the same as a number of the leading products out there. Spider is also leading the way with a recognition center service that enables us to collect unrecognized definitions from your estate and then find out more information about those applications so that we can then provide you with an enhanced catalog on a monthly basis to give you additional fingerprint recognition as well for applications that may not already appear in the system. So in order to be able to navigate across our product, you just simply click on the Spider Asset logo, or if you take a solution from one of our service provider partners, then you may find that this logo would be replaced with perhaps their logo inside the system. And then you can navigate across all of the different modules in the system. So I'm just going to go back into Spider Asset and now going to go into this module here, which is the function unit module. Function units provide us inside the system with the means of being able to have a look at abstracting the relationships between different assets or entities inside the system. So this might be for the purposes of licensing on the one hand, or it might also be for the purposes of ownership, where there are multiple assets related to one function unit for the purposes of a workplace. For example, it might be that your receptionist, the role of the receptionist includes a telephone, includes a desktop, and includes a printer. And as part of this, you wanted to keep these assets in Spider Asset. These could be associated under one function unit, and then the relevant employee who takes care of that role assigned to that workplace, so that you can track which assets are assigned to which employee from that perspective as well. So you can see inside the system here, we have a number of different function units, and this is on the virtual system side of things. But if I break this out to all function unit types, we can see that we have a number of different types of function units inside the system. So to give an overview of some of these, we have obviously virtual systems are virtual machines, could be servers or clients. We also have as well a server system type of function unit, which I'll filter on there, and this shows you the physical servers that exist in the system. And we have another type of function unit called separate software usage, which is a really powerful feature inside the system for being able to track that type of licensing that perhaps there isn't always a automated way of being able to collect. So for example, the one that we have here is Microsoft Cal usage. You might find that rather than trying to associate individual CAL consumption to two devices, that you want a singular place to be able to capture that CAL usage in one place, because you know how many employees you've got, and you have a process internally where you periodically update the value that's inside here. So much the same as what you'll recognize from the software section that we had when we were looking inside an asset, you can see here that we've got the possibility to assign software here, in this case CAL, assigned to this separate software usage function unit as if it was installed there. So this means that we have the possibility then to be able to show that reconciled against the CAL licenses that you'll import into Spider License, so that as your employee numbers are changing, you'll be able to also have a singular place to keep track of your compliance without the need for additional spreadsheets to take care of those things manually outside of the system, which we think is a really powerful feature. So also on the function unit side of things, I mentioned that we have the possibility to track the server systems. And this is useful for the purposes of mapping virtualized environments, because the complexity that licensing has when you start introducing virtualization in an environment goes up over and above the classic kind of device-based model, and how asset management systems are taking care of this is a really important feature to be considering when you're looking at an asset management solution for your environment. So we can see I've got a number of physical servers here which have function units. So I'm just going to jump into this ESX host here. So in here, we've got an ESX host which has been presented, which is SRV-P-VMW001. I can drill into the asset, which shows me my classic asset view that we talked about earlier. And these can be either automatically generated by our EDC client's vCenter connector, or alternatively can be imported into the system if you use a different hypervisor type that we don't currently support, or it's possible to make additional connectors in order to pull through that data from hypervisors that we may not currently support in the event that you want to use this in an on-premise solution. So looking at this here, we can see that actually, although this is an ESX server, I've put in basic processor information, so I can see that there are 2 CPUs there, 4 cores per CPU, and I've put in that I've assigned the Windows Server 2012 R2 data center license to this machine here. Now, the reason why I've done that is because inside our system, I mentioned earlier that we have license metric procedures, or LMPs for short. The impact of doing this is enabling the system then to take advantage of the license rights that you have included with modern versions of Windows Server, whereby I have the possibility to have perhaps multiple virtualization capabilities on that host, covering more than just a single OSC or operating system environment. So we can see here that assigned to this physical server, which is a member of the HH production cluster, there are 4 virtual machines with varying CPU counts. So if I jumped into this one here, SRV-V HH114, we can see there that this is the function unit side of what's going on inside there. And if I just jump inside that again, we can have a look to find out again the asset details of this. Now, interestingly, we can see that this particular device has 2 CPUs and just is a single core per CPU. Now, the nice thing that we can see is that when we look at the software side of what's installed on this device at the bottom, the license usage for SQL Server 2008 R2 is showing as 1. So this is based on a user model, so that could be fine based on the users that are accessing this. But we've got Windows Server 2008 R2 standard here that's actually showing a license usage of 0. And the reason for that is because we associated the Windows Server 2012 license at the function unit level for the physical host on which this virtual machine is running. So the license metric procedures have looked at that, knowing that it's a data center license, and have said there is unlimited virtualization now available for all of the virtual guests that are running on this host. So the nice thing is that we have both assigned those unlimited virtualization rights to discount licenses, but actually 2 other types of rights as well, which you'll notice inside there, because the license type that we associated to the host was Windows Server 2012 R2 Data Center. The license that's been covered here is Windows Server 2008 R2 Standard. And just to prove that obviously this is a license metric procedure calculated rule and not something that I've changed for the purposes of the demo and manual handling, you can see here that that's given, and the result there is calculated by this LMP calculated box there ticked. So that gives us a really nice overview as to some of the capabilities of that relationship mapping and what we could achieve with that. But also there's another benefit of having these out with using this in the Spider scenario, because actually one of the other capabilities that we have inside the product gives us the ability to visualize a particular data center as well. So when I'm looking at something here, we can see that I've got a cluster here, which is the HH production cluster that we previously looked at. And if I just use the ribbon to go to the function unit for that, again, we'll see that this is the physical server systems that are assigned into there. If I want to actually take this though into a meeting to discuss about how we might want to more carefully optimize our SQL usage inside the estate, we can click on the relationships view button in the ribbon. And actually what Spider's now going to do for us is draw out that infrastructure so that we can see that we've got the HH production cluster system here at the top and the two hosts that are members of that underneath, but also I can expand out these final nodes at the bottom and also see the virtualized clients or guests, sorry, that are running on that particular environment, which again we believe is a really powerful feature because not everybody's able to look at text and see things in the correct way. It's really nice sometimes to be able to take a diagram in, so we enable it there so that we can have a one-to-one zoom on that, and that prints out nicely so that you can take that into a meeting to discuss with perhaps your license reseller, license consultant, or senior management how you might want to restructure your licensing to get the most out of your license rights. So that's given a really quick overview as to the capabilities that some of the capabilities that we have inside Spider Asset. My name is Barry Johnson. You can reach me for further questions or information by emailing me at barry.johnson@brainwaregroup.com. And if you need further information, please visit our website, which is www.brainwaregroup.com.